We welcome to the program now the Speaker of the House, Speaker Philip Gunn. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Gerard. Glad to be here. Like your music. That's a little journey from
go.
the 1980s. That's my kind of music, man.
You were just telling me what did the temperatures? What did it register?
My car said it was 110 out there,
Jeez.
So I'm not sure it's 110, but the car thinks it is. It's that kind of hot.
It's pretty dang hot.
And I don't know if it's just getting hotter or we're just getting older, but it hurts me worse today than it did when I was in the younger years.
I agree. Well, I know you recall played football at a high level. In August, that wasn't any fun, was it?
Man, everything was completely different back then. In the early 80s, there was no emphasis on hydration. In fact, they felt like giving you water was a bad thing. You would get stomach cramps and stuff. So they actually deprived us of fluids and liquids and gave us salt tablets on top of that.
Yeah.
And we were out there running around. And, of course, I tried to play at Baylor in Central Texas, and we had two-a-days back then. They don't have two-a-days anymore. The NCAA has stopped all that. But I remember we had AstroTurf, and in the middle of the afternoon, and Central Texas, one day our coach put a frying pan on the field and left it out there for about 2 hours before practice and came out there and fried an egg on the frying pan just to show us how hot it was. And I think back to those days, and it's just a wonder we didn't all die.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, we've learned a lot since then, obviously, and so different measures have been implemented to guard against that.
That's just a lot of hydration, giving the players a scheduled break or rest. I don't know that they don't do two-a-days anymore, I don't guess.
I don't think so, and I don't think the high schools do it either.
And they do them at night, practice when the heat is a little cooler. So things have changed.
Yeah, they have.
For the better, I'm sure.
So Mississippi once again represented in the College World Series.
Excited
with the Ole Miss
about
Rebels.
that. Yes, sir.
Big game today. This is it.
And I hope people realize that, Mississippi State won a national championship last year. Pearl River Community College won the junior college national championship about a month ago. If Ole Miss can push forward, and I think every one of us as Mississippians ought to be proud of that and for that, if they can push forward and win it, we will have swept everything there's to sweep in the baseball world, and Mississippi will be on the map for a baseball powerhouse.
It's unbelievable.
That's great for our state.
It absolutely is, as we, of course, pulled very strongly for Mississippi State last year. Absolutely. It was so much fun watching that, and I'm so happy for them and for the state, and for you and I have many common friends that are big Mississippi State supporters, and that was great.
Well, that's exactly right. And you and I have shared the love of baseball.
Yep.
I know your son and my son are great friends and have played together and with each other, have coached together, and you are a legendary coach. A lot of your listeners may not know that, but you are very knowledgeable. You, in fact, volunteered your time to coach even when you didn't have a son playing. That speaks well of you and your love of the game and your character and knowledge, and a lot of listeners don't know that, but I've seen you out there coaching teams that you didn't even have a boy on just because you love the game. So,
man, I appreciate that.
Congratulations to you.
I'm honored, humbled, sir. Thank you very much. I mean, with all my heart, you and I and our sons do have a common love for the game.
Right.
And, the thing I like about baseball is there's a discipline to it. And I want to see it played right, and I want to see it played with respect more than anything.
That's right.
And it's such a great tool to develop youngsters as well, and we want to do that right.
We do want to do it right, and you and I are old school. We believe in good sportsmanship. We believe in competing hard, but your character and the way you carry yourself and behave are more important than the winning the ball game.
No doubt.
And I saw yesterday where the pitching coach for the Toronto Blue Jays got ejected at the exchange of the lineup cards at home plate before the game.
For what?
I don't know. I have yet to see that, but they showed it last night when I was watching the Ole Miss game that this coach got ejected at the exchange of the lineup cards. The game hadn't even started yet. He did something, got himself ejected. We got to figure that out.
The one deterrent from craziness in baseball, for while we're still on that, and then we'll move on to more important things, is that everybody's got to go to the plate and that pitcher's got a weapon in his hand.
Yes, that's
about
true.
95 miles an hour. And at the major leagues in particular, they will use that.
They can.
But that, as I tell the parents all the time, Mr. Speaker, is, that is the business of baseball. This is the game of baseball.
Yes,
that's the important distinction. So we don't do what they do. They may get paid millions of dollars to do that. So anyhow, really appreciate it. Enjoy that conversation. And yes, our sons are very close friends, and you want to see your offspring develop relationships with good people in their age group as well. And so that, I think, has been a mutually beneficial relationship for them. All right, so we got some laws that go into effect. I don't know if which ones you're familiar with and not, but July 1's like a watershed day for a lot of the laws we pass.
A lot of listeners may not know this, but almost, and this is not 100%, but almost every law that we pass corresponds with the fiscal year. And our state operates on a fiscal year of July 1 to June 30.
Yeah.
That's when our budget goes into effect, and that's when most of the laws go into effect. But we will pass laws from time to time that take effect upon passage, or may take effect on January 1. Maybe it's a tax bill that you want it to correspond to the tax
calendar year. Yeah.
So there are exceptions, but on the whole, every bill, new law that is, goes into effect on July 1.
Okay.
And so yes, next week, what's today? The 22nd, 3rd? Today's 23rd. So
I think that's right.
A week from tomorrow, is that right?
That's right.
Is July 1. So these new laws will go into effect July 1.
Okay. So one of the first things you got out of there that was very controversial, of course, was the medical marijuana bill. And, the Department of Health is busy promulgating rules and taking applications, and the folks in the industry are busy building out their facilities.
Absolutely. That is something that resulted from the initiative that was passed back in, I guess, 2019, when the citizens rose up and spoke to the issue and said they wanted to have a medical marijuana program. As we all know, the Supreme Court set that aside for procedural reasons, but the legislature recognized that the people have spoken. This is what they want, and we set out to implement a very strict, we think, medical marijuana program, one that is designed to accomplish the goal of providing medical relief to those who need it, but prevents it from becoming a recreational thing or abused in any way.
Yeah.
A lot of restrictions on that, a lot of guidelines on that, to make sure that it's not abused, that it doesn't turn into a recreational program. And I must commend your friend and mine, Lee Yancey, for taking that on. He is one who embraced that issue, taught himself a lot about it, and really worked hard to make sure that bill is exactly what we designed it to be or intended for it to be, and that is true medical marijuana program, not a recreational program.
With respect to the law and the rules and the provisions, he may be the most knowledgeable person in the state. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Senator Blackwell. He as well.
Yeah.
But they dug in, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
To make sure we did it right. One important feature that we should point out that has been acted upon that I think was a great feature, which is we extended the option to counties and municipal governments to opt out of some or all of the program, and many exercise their option to do so.
They sure did, and I haven't seen the latest list of those who have opted out, but we did provide for that if there's a city or a county that chooses not to provide the dispensaries of that, they can vote and opt out, and many have. I know Clinton and Madison and maybe Brandon and Pass Christian and
28 or so, I believe,
Spring,
cities.
All around the state,
and a few counties. In Madison County, my home county, opted out of the retail aspect,
right?
But decided to allow all the other parts of the industry.
The growing
testing,
and
processing.
There are a lot of people who are investing a lot of money in our state right now, buying facilities, rehabbing them to provide for the growth of that. So that's happening all around the state.
We got a break right here. When we come back, we'll touch a little bit on tax reform that we got done, but still I think want to get more done. And we're going to talk about the citizen-initiated ballot measure process that we didn't get done, but where we may go from here on that. We got Speaker of the House Philip Gunn in the Element Wealth studio. We've got Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn. We appreciate you joining us, Mr. Speaker. So one thing that's come up in the last 24 hours is the president is asking everybody to pitch in and bringing down the price of gas. We just played a clip earlier where now he's attacking small business owners that run the retailers that sell gas and asking them to go out and change the price at the pump today. He's already attacked the big oil and gas producers. He's also imploring states to relieve and perhaps put a temporary suspension on the state excise tax. It is being reported that he was trying to issue an EO to do that at the federal level, but apparently can't. But Congress doesn't seem to be on board with instituting that and pausing the federal excise tax. It leads me up to the question, is there any interest or inclination at the state level amongst state leaders in the legislature to maybe get together and do something with respect to our tax?
I've not seen what he's proposed in the last 24 hours, so I can't really speak to that. I will tell you there's not been any conversation in recent days about that that I'm aware of. Other than the fact that gasoline prices are high, and it's the president's fault, and he could fix it if he wanted to. That's the conversations that we've had.
And I've seen members of our legislature say the same thing.
And he's just passing, trying to deflect responsibility away from his own.
Rhino, will you buy the guy with the president a mirror so he can look at himself in?
Yeah, that's the answer right there.
What's our present excise tax in the state?
18 cents. 18 and a half, maybe something like that.
And we're in the
people
bottom
need to know
third.
This. They don't pay a sales tax. We don't pay a sales tax on gas. You pay an excise tax.
Per gallon.
Per gallon. I think it's 18 and a half, something like that.
So we have 18 cents at the state level, 18.4 cents roughly at the federal level, 36 cents total. But heck, price gas $5. So
it is. It's crazy.
It's more than nothing. But it doesn't solve the fundamental problem of we need more supply and policies
that would basic economics, supply and demand.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the citizen-initiated ballot measure process in the state of Mississippi is presently on ice. We don't have one. I know you guys tried to get something done this past session.
Correct.
We Sine Died without a law, without a change. Actually, it would be something we'd have to put on the ballot for the voters to ratify because we have to modify the Constitution, amend the Constitution. It's not something you can do in statute. Do you feel like this is going to be a high priority when you return in the 23 session?
I believe it will be another topic of conversation, yes. This was, as you know, as we talked about a few minutes ago, the Supreme Court declared the previous process to be unconstitutional, invalid. So we set out to reinstitute that, revive that. We in the House passed a plan that we felt like closely mirrored the way it was before with the changes that the Supreme Court ordered. One was to change a congressional district or have our congressional districts conform to have the law conform to the number of congressional districts that we have. We fixed that. Another real concern was that any initiative that passed went into the Constitution. We changed that to make sure that it goes into the statute. It's the same thing that the legislature does.
Right.
Other than that, the process, as I recall, the bill that we passed was pretty much the same to the original process. The Senate did not agree with some of those things, and there was discussions that were had about what those differences were, and we just were not able to reach an agreement before the time ran out at the end of the session. Again, we were doing so many of these other things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, busy session.
We just didn't ever get an agreement on that one. Yeah. So we will have continued discussions. I think if we can reach an agreement, we'll probably come forward with a bill. If we can't reach an agreement, then we probably won't.
I know you've been on before and talked about tax reform, which was a very high priority for you. Sir. And we got something done, fell a little short of the original goal, but I like to describe it as a down payment on what I hope we can get ultimately done, which is full elimination of the income tax.
Absolutely, and it was a huge step in that direction, and I want to thank you for your efforts on that. You were a real champion. I think you got it, you understood it, you researched it, and maybe your listeners don't know just how much time you put into it, but you really dug in on the issue and tried to educate yourself and advocate for good policies. And
thank you, sir.
While we did not get full elimination, the deal that we did get was such a huge step in that direction, we just couldn't walk away from it. Yeah. And so basically, bottom line is we've eliminated a third of the income tax. So individuals beginning next year will pay a third less in income tax. And well, let me back up. It phases in over 4 years, but at full elimination, our citizens will pay a third less in income tax. That's huge. That's more money in their pockets to support their families and raise their kids and give to their church and all the benefits that come from those dollars turning over. The plan that we passed now positions us to be within the top 5 marginal best tax rates in the country. And finally, we are number 1 in something. This plan that we passed has the highest monetary threshold before you start paying a tax. In other words, you make $18,300 before you have to start.
As an individual.
As an individual, $36,600 as a couple, before you have to start paying income tax. That's the highest dollar amount in the nation among states who pay an income tax. Keep in mind there are 9 states that do not have an income tax. So they are ahead of us in that regard. But of the 41 remaining states who pay an income tax, we now have the highest monetary threshold. You keep more of your money before you start paying income taxes. So those are some tremendous benefits of the plan that we passed, and that's going to serve very well to help our citizens better provide for themselves.
You know, and our revenues continue to be strong. It's like we're going to come in with, $1.2 billion or so surplus this year, I think is the latest data I saw from Department of Revenue. I'm concerned about the headwinds. I know you guys are too, the macroeconomic headwinds that might negatively impact our collections just because economic activity may slow down somewhat.
With these
but
high
we're still
prices,
in pretty good shape.
We are still in good shape, and that continues to open the door for us to do more on the income tax. As we've said, our goal is full elimination. We took a huge step. That doesn't mean we can't take further steps. And so we're going to continue to evaluate ways to take further steps. But with these high prices that are coming in, it certainly adversely works adversely to help our citizens with the monetary benefit that we're providing to them.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it also helps them better weather those higher prices, too, by putting more money in their pockets.
I agree. More disposable income to offset it because wages aren't rising fast enough. Despite what the president says, they're not rising fast enough to keep up with inflation, so your real wages are upside down.
That's right.
But if we can get a tax relief at the state level, which is not figured into the national conversation, we benefit here in Mississippi.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing there. So what do you got on the radar coming up?
Oh, well, we're looking towards the next session. I will tell you that economic development, workforce development, job creation are kind of at the top of the list. These are things that are incredibly important to our people. So many things work into that when you throw those topics out there. Education, again, another thing we did this year in the education arena was the highest teacher pay raise in the history of the state. We've already had some of our more seasoned teachers say they were contemplating retirement, but because of the pay raise, they're going to hang in there. Good. That better prepares our students to be educated. We put 2 bills that we passed this year to elevate the emphasis on workforce development through the Office of Workforce Development. We're doing a lot of things that are focused on job creation and workforce development and economic development, which is where the economic prosperity comes. That seems to be the number one issue for the people of our state. So we're going to be focused on, at least my intention is to focus a lot on that next session. I would like to continue to look at the income tax thing like we talked about with these high revenues like we've had. I think we can do more there. I'm going to come forward with a proposal on what to do there. Of course, next year's an election year, and many of we'll be looking at the end of a term, and so many of our members will be evaluating the re-election. We'll have some who probably every time we have about 15 or 20 that don't return through retirements or whatever, and so there's always a new start there. So those are some of the things that are on the horizon.
Yeah. Anything with respect to PERS we need to be looking at from a legislative perspective?
You know, we've been able to put a lot of money there in the last few years. I want to commend my chairman, John Reed, for staying on top of that. I think PERS is hopefully on the right path to being self-supported We continue to have to put money there to shore it up, but Ray Higgins is, I think, doing a adequate job over there trying to get that thing on the right track.
Yeah.
And I want to commend, going back to teacher pay,
yeah.
Richard Bennett and Kevin Felcher and Jansen Owen and Kent McCarty, 4 of my House members who developed that teacher pay plan and passed it. And on the income tax thing, I want to commend Trey Lamar and Jason White, who were the architects of that, and my chief of staff, Trey Dallinger, all of whom put that together. So those people are the ones that made those things happen. We need to give them credit for that.
Absolutely. Mr. Speaker, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Enjoyed being with you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
You too, sir. We'll be right back here in the Element Wealth Studios. We got some tickets, concert tickets to give away before we get out of here.